Live from the Buffalo Wild Wings studios, it's time to get locked in to the best Sooner recruiting and football news with Tyler McComas and Parker Thune.
You better lock it up. You better lock it up. No, you lock it up. You lock it up. Lock it up.
Hit the guys up on the Riverwind Casino calling line at 405-329-9000. Text the show on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line at 405-651-3439.
Do it! Just do it!
Now, with Locked In, here's Tyler McComas and Parker Thune.
Well, first and foremost, I hope everyone out there had a very Merry Christmas. You spent time with family, you spent time with friends, loved ones. You had a great past 2 days, and you're ready to go for a football game tomorrow between OU and Navy in the Armed Forces Bowl. I want to start here because I think we all knew and recognized that OU's quarterback situation next year was going to look a lot different than what it did this past season. And that QB room, Parker Thune, is really starting to take shape. And, you know, the way that it looks like it's going to sit, I'm in a spot here on December 26th where, you know what, I might have some optimism about the QB spot heading into next year. John Mateer, I think, is going to be your starting quarterback. We know what he was last year. He's the number one player in the portal. I'm hopeful, I'm confident that he can have a big 2025. Michael Hawkins would be a very good option as a backup quarterback. You have Jet New coming in as a true freshman. Don't expect him to play a lot. But if you get into an emergency situation after this year, please, God, don't get into an emergency situation. But OU adds who's probably going to be QB3 next year, Cole Gonzalez out of Western Carolina, 6'1", 205, has thrown for over 6,600 yards in his career, over 50 touchdowns, 2 years of eligibility left, 2023 SoCon Player of the Year. No, Cole Gonzalez probably won't have a huge hand into what happens in 2025, but I'm starting to feel very confident that OU is going to be a lot better at quarterback at 25 than they were this past season. What about you?
Yeah, there's no doubt about that. And the Sooners needed a fourth scholarship quarterback. We talked about that. The thing we'd also talked about is it might be difficult to talk a guy like Cole Gonzalez into coming to Oklahoma and not playing as opposed to going somewhere else and having a chance to compete for the starting job. I mean, let's be real with ourselves. Cole Gonzalez, if you watch the tape, he's got some nice tape. He's been successful at Western Carolina. He does not have a chance to start for Oklahoma in 2025.
Yeah.
He does not have a chance. If at any point he is starting, something has gone horribly wrong. But the point there, Tyler, is that we've seen enough things go horribly wrong in the last 3 years for Oklahoma to know that an addition like this should not be overlooked or diminished. I'm not saying you have to plaster it all over the front page of every newspaper in the state, but it is worth noting that if worst comes to worst and John Mateer and Michael Hawkins are both unavailable at a certain point, you can now turn to an experienced kid who's got 2.5 years of starting experience, albeit at the FCS level, as opposed to having to turn things over to a true freshman in Jet New. So Cole Gonzalez is a guy that you hope does not ever see the field at the University of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
But if he has to, I think the point is he's not going to crash the car.
Well, why? Why yesterday? Why Cole Gonzalez in Oklahoma? And again, I echo everything that you just said there. Okay, I think John Mateer is your starting quarterback next year, and you know his play, I think in large part is going to affect what the 2025 season for OU looks like. It's certainly offensively. But you and I just talked about Cole Gonzalez on Monday. And it's not like it was necessarily super optimistic that it was imminent that he was going to sign with OU. I think our discussion was, well, it's going to be a really tough sell for OU to a kid that's got some options out there. Again, he didn't light up the SEC last year. He was in the SoCon. He was playing for Western Carolina. But for a guy that had options, that's played as much football as he had, why does he commit to Oklahoma yesterday when, like you said, I mean, he's probably at best QB3 on next year's team?
Yeah, well, two things. One being money. I would imagine he has more earning potential in the NIL department at Oklahoma than pretty much any other school that has seriously pursued him. And also, Tyler, here's what you got to keep in mind about Cole Gonzalez. He's a true junior, so he has not taken a red shirt yet. Theoretically, he can redshirt next year at Oklahoma, transfer again, and have a chance to go start somewhere else in 2026. Or, like I'm sure what he's counting on, too, is Oklahoma is a place where I think if this happens or that happens, I could find myself being in position to start. I'm sure he's thinking, without knowing all the specifics of each of the situations, I'm sure he's probably thinking, well, as a kid like Michael Hawkins, who was a 4-star recruit, top 150 player out of high school, is he really going to keep sitting behind John Mateer? No, he'll probably transfer, which would leave me one John Mateer injury from being the starting quarterback at the University of Oklahoma. So it's kind of a calculated gamble on Cole Gonzalez's part. If he winds up on the field, great. At least from his perspective, great. If not, well, guess what? I can take a red shirt. The year doesn't cost me anything. I can take the experiences that I had on the practice field at Oklahoma at the P4 level, the lessons I learned in the film room with Ben Arbuckle, and I can go apply them somewhere in 2026 as I hit the transfer portal and go pursue an opportunity to start somewhere with my last collegiate year of eligibility.
And I would guess that that's what happens. I mean, he's your third-string quarterback next year, and he's probably destined for a redshirt year next year. At least I think that's probably best-case scenario for OU's offense next year. Is that what happened? Is that clearly John Mateer comes in, he's a dude. Michael Hawkins is there in whatever role that you want to use him as next year. And then this kid, I mean, just provides some depth. He's in some ways a camp arm for you. And, yeah, I mean, he has a redshirt year next year, and we'll see what happens to him in a year's time. But to me, it's just more of the realization that, a year ago we thought, all right, they're going with Jackson Arnold. Feels like Jackson Arnold is the future of this program, and he's the guy that's going to lead you in your first couple of years in the SEC. And what we thought we knew a year ago compared to now, and it's just another instance of how crazy things can get on a year-to-year basis in college football. You're going to have John Mateer, Michael Hawkins, Cole Gonzalez, and Jet New as your 4 scholarship quarterbacks next year, and only one of those guys was on the roster last year. Heck, even Steele Wassel's in the portal right now, man. So you're going to have, essentially, outside of Hawkins, an entirely new quarterback situation.
It's kind of reminiscent of 2022, isn't it, when Oklahoma had to replace literally the entire quarterback room because Spencer Rattler transferred, Caleb Williams transferred, and I guess Ralph Rucker stuck around. I guess he was kind of the one holdover from the previous season. Micah Bowens was on the roster, too, for what that's worth. But it's going to feel a lot like 2022 where, you watch the quarterbacks trot out onto the field for the spring game or for the season opener. You're like, wow, this is the first time I've ever seen any of these guys wear the crimson and cream, with the obvious exception of Michael Hawkins, who did make 3 starts for Oklahoma in the regular season in 2024 and is set to start tomorrow in the bowl game. But to go back to the point on Cole Gonzalez, again, even with as many issues as Oklahoma had in the quarterback department in 2024, you know how many snaps were taken by a quarterback other than Jackson Arnold or Michael Hawkins? 1. It was the last snap of the Alabama game that Casey Thompson got. So, for all practical purposes, you are not going to see Cole Gonzalez at all. You're barely going to realize he exists in 2025. But if absolute worst comes to worst, he is there. He is the break glass in case of emergency guy, much the way Casey Thompson was this past season.
Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. Let's get to it. Jesse G says, would you describe Cole Gonzalez as speedy? I wonder how old you have to be to get that reference there by Jesse G. Connor's with us. Connor, do you get that reference? Speedy Gonzalez? Do you get it?
It's off a movie.
Okay, that's what I thought. That's what I was afraid of. Hattie, you get it, right? You could just nod yes if you'd like. Yeah, Hattie understands. Gunny says, wasn't that supposed to be Casey Thompson this last year? Essentially Cole Gonzalez.
Yes, correct. Yeah. Exactly. Cole Gonzalez is your new Casey Thompson.
Hey, and maybe Cole Gonzalez has the exact same year as Casey Thompson, just hangs out and takes a knee in the last snap after OU obliterates Alabama again next year, huh? Can anybody get behind that for Cole Gonzalez? That'd be awesome. 1 snap, kneeling it out in Tuscaloosa as OU beats Alabama again. You'll love this one from the 405. Spending our NIL budget on a 3rd string. This program is a joke.
Fun times. Fun times. Oklahoma, as I have tallied it up, they have 5 scholarships left to allocate. 5 scholarships that are unaccounted for. So right now you would figure if Oklahoma locks down Ethan O'Connor, which still looks likely, then that gets you to 81. You got 4 more to 85. How do you use those last 4? I'm sure people will have a variety of very, very strong opinions as to what Oklahoma should do with those last 4 scholarships.
Yeah, I haven't seen, and maybe people are off today, and then, the text line is active today, but I haven't seen very many people on social media saying, Holden stays! Go get him! Go get him now, Joe John! Go get him! Come on, Brents! I'm sure you saw that Holden stays. The Tennessee tight end plans to enter the transfer portal. He had what?
Yep.
I think he had 1 touchdown catch last year, less than 15 receptions. I just bring up Holden stays, not because 15 catches, 131 yards, and 1 touchdown. I don't bring him up just because he's a random tight end in the portal. I remember talking about his name last year when we were talking about tight end acquisitions via the portal.
Yeah, that's correct. Oklahoma was, as I recall, in his final 3. Now, he originally played at Notre Dame. That was where he started his collegiate career. Transferred to Tennessee, but I'm trying to think who was. There were 3 contenders when he got in the portal. It was Tennessee, it was Oklahoma, there was somebody else. I guess it really doesn't matter. He picked Tennessee over Oklahoma the first time around. Does Oklahoma get involved once again? I'm not entirely sure. As of yet, that news is very fresh, but given that there was interest from the OU side the last time he was in the portal, I would expect that Joe John Finley at the very least sends a text or something of that ilk to Holden Stays.
Alan M. on the YouTube live chat just sent a $4.99 super chats with the question of anything going on in Cowtown tonight Sooner-wise. Alan M., I am not sure if anything OU-wise is going on in Cowtown tonight. I know there's a lot of OU fans that are currently making their way down to Fort Worth as we speak, and some are already down there. I'm trying to check the OU Club of Fort Worth socials to see if they have anything going on. But if you're a part of OU Club of Fort Worth or you know of anything going on in the DFW area with OU fans, send us a text or a YouTube live message, and we'll get back to Alan M. You know anything that's going on other than where you're going to dinner tonight?
No, I don't even know that, Tyler. We're still undecided. Still trying to figure out what the dinner spot is going to be this evening. So I know absolutely nothing for the time being.
Okay, let's see. OU Club of Fort Worth. I found this 2 days ago. We look forward to fans joining us on Thursday, December 26th, for a Sooners Stockyard takeover as we are officially in game week. Wear your crimson and cream and show outs. So it looks like if you head to the Stockyards this evening, that there's going to be some OU fans out and about there. So I've been to the Stockyards a few times. Good time every time I go down there. So that's Alan M. Thank you for the $4.99 super chat. I would say go to the Stockyards, yell out "Boomer" real loud, and I bet you'll find some people that will point you in the right direction. Okay, we need to get big Marvin Jones Jr. and Zachariah Branch, says Eric in Dallas. Seems like the Zachariah Branch stuff that ain't gonna happen.
No, it does not seem like it's going to happen. But I'd love it if it did, Tyler. I mean, that could be a game changer in this offense with his speed and elusive. And as I've said before, the Tyreek Hill comparisons hold up. Tyreek Hill wasn't a wide receiver and wasn't considered one until the Chiefs decided, hey, you know what? This dude is literally the fastest guy in football. Let's just go have him run routes and create separation and see what happens. And boom, Tyreek Hill becomes not only a starting wide receiver for the Kansas City Chiefs, but one of the best wide receivers in all of professional football. So if OU wanted to bring in, if any program wanted to bring in a guy like Zachariah Branch and utilize him heavily as a receiver as opposed to a return man, I think that's a great plan of attack. It doesn't really seem like an option that Oklahoma is interested in right now.
Zach from Clinton, I haven't listened since last Friday. Vacation. What did I miss, JK? Good to hear you guys again, Boomer. I appreciate that. Good to hear from you, Zach. Hope vacation went well. 580, is OU going to take another tight end from the portal? And if so, who? Yeah, I mean, we just talked about Holden Stays there. We'll see what OU does there. But is OU going to take another tight end from the portal? Man, I got to think so. I really do. And just to go back to the last time you and I did a show together, which was on Monday, OU gets Carson Kent. And look, no one is or should be counting on Carson Kent to be the savior at tight end next year. Those should not be the expectations. And I really hope those aren't OU's expectations this year, as that he comes in and he's one of the best tight ends in the SEC. I'm hoping, Parker, that they go get someone that is either way more proven or, I don't know, way more potent in the as a receiver at tight end. The point is, if Carson Kent, if all he is a guy that you can line up and maybe want to be physical in terms of being a blocker, pass protection, run game, whatever, I think that could be a good fit there. But I'm hoping that OU's not looking at Carson Kent saying, that's the only tight end we're getting, and this guy is an immediate day one starter for us. Because I don't think that's going to work out well.
Yeah, well, and of course, the big question there is how many of those guys are you going to find in the portal at tight end. There are very few true difference makers at that position right now in the transfer portal. There were a couple at the outset, but they all landed elsewhere. Tanner Koziol was tops on my list and on a lot of people's lists. He winds up at Wisconsin. So Oklahoma may just have to count on assembling enough depth at that position for 2025 that somebody, it doesn't matter who, but somebody turns out to be the breakout star at that position, be it Devon Mitchell or Cade McIntyre or even Carson Kent, right? But doesn't really feel like there's going to be a guy out there that is a locked and loaded surefire starter as soon as you bring him in.
All right, a lot to get to today on this day after Christmas show. This morning, and I'm sure this number's changed a little bit. Well, it has, because Holden Stays has entered in the portal since. 2,546 FBS football players in the portal so far this cycle as of this morning. 2,546 FBS players, which is crazy, but not all that shocking these days. All right, keep the text on the Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line coming. We'll get to more OU football next. Start to look at this football game coming up tomorrow at 11 a.m. on ESPN. Keep it locked on the Ref. We are the home of Sooner fans. Hornsdown Apple Pie Liquor is not your grandma's apple pie unless your grandma was a moonshiner with a PhD in flavor. This all-natural, 6-time distilled spirit is sure to light up any party, tailgate, or special occasion. Whether toasting a touchdown or yelling at the Yums because Spike was safe, Hornsdown Apple Pie is the perfect drink for celebrating the highs and lows of life in Oklahoma. Hornsdown celebrates all of you who cheer from the berm, tailgate, on Lindsay Street, and wreak havoc on social media. You can find our red bottle at your local liquor store or search for your closest location at drinkhornsdown.com.
Deal with the stress, we'll get you back to your normal life. So save our number in your phone, and if you're ever hurt in a wreck, call or text us at 405-800-8080. It's 405-800-8080.
How about this? We're hanging out with the winningest coach in OU football history, Bob Stoops, Mondays on the T-Row in the Morning Show. It's the Stoops Review with the HBC on the T-Row Show, Mondays from 7:45 to 8:30 with limited commercial interruption. Every Monday, we'll be looking back at Saturday's OU game with a guy who knows what he's looking at. Bob Stoops, the Visor, the HBC on our show every Monday. Check it out.
When you're sick, you need to be seen by a health professional today, not next week. Norman Regional Urgent Care is here for you from 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. Open 7 days a week at Porter Health Village in Norman and Monday through Friday in Westmore and Goldsby. No appointment needed, just walk right in. Whether it's a sudden illness or a minor injury, Norman Regional Urgent Care is ready to get you back on your feet today, not next week.
It's the end of year and Lander CDJR is celebrating with huge savings on new cars, trucks, and SUVs. $17,500 off of MSRP on new Ram 1500 Rebel Crew 4-wheel drive. New 2024 Ram 2500, $16,500 off of MSRP. New 2024 Jeep Wrangler Rubicon, over $10,000 off MSRP. Plus, find massive savings on certified pre-owned vehicles. Visit Lander CDJR for huge year-end savings at I-35 in Norman, or visit online at landercdjrnorman.com. Ram 1500 stock number RN207871. Wrangler Rubicon stock number RW331425.
Christmas has come early at Bob Hurley RV. Get the all-new 2025 Coachman Catalina for only $115 per month. Plus, don't miss our year-end sales event with incredible deals on over 300 RVs. Get America's best-selling fifth wheel, the Keystone Cougar, for just $249 per month. Kick off a new year of adventures with Bob Hurley RV. Visit us between Britain and Wilshire under the giant American flag.
Offer with approved credit. See dealer for details.
Once upon a time, our family had trouble with pests around our home. Did you know that stinging insects send tons of people to the hospital? And teeny ticks and mosquitoes can be all around the yard. Their bites can make people and their pets sick. Mice, rats, and roaches need food and water just like us. You do not want them to visit. They can spread disease and make it hard to breathe. I'm sure glad this story has a happy ending.
Learn how to protect your family at pestworld.org. A public service message from the National Pest Management Association.
My name is Ariel. I moved to the U.S. at 19. I spoke no English and I struggled finding job opportunities. Everything I have, I owe to the Adult Literacy Center and getting my high school diploma at age 22.
It was an honor helping you achieve your greatness. Now you're helping others achieve theirs. It inspires me.
When you graduate, they graduate. Find free and supportive adult education centers near you at finishyourdiploma.org. Brought to you by Dollar General Literacy Foundation and the Ad Council.
How do you give hope to a child in the foster care system? It starts with your heart. That tug you feel on yours when you hear that children are waiting for a stable, loving voice to speak up for their best interests. And then it becomes your time. What started out as a feeling that maybe you could make a difference becomes the difference. Change a child's story. There is a child waiting for a volunteer like you.
Contact South Central CASA at 405-360-5295.
Locked in with McComas and Thune, live on the Ref. We're the home of Sooner fans. Tyler McComas, Parker Thune, Ref Army, listening worldwide via the free KREF app. Just search KREF in the App Store. Columbus, Ohio is tuned in today. West Jordan, Utah. League City, Texas. Jacksonville, Florida. Red Bank, New Jersey. Derby, Kansas. North Augusta, South Carolina. Chandler, Oklahoma, all tuned in today via the free KREF app. Just search KREF in the App Store. And our Ref Army locators brought to you by Hornsdown Apple Pie. I hope that you got the gift of Hornsdown Apple Pie for Christmas, or at least gave the gift of Hornsdown Apple Pie for Christmas. Regardless, fantastic Christmas gift, available over 100 locations throughout the state of Oklahoma. DrinkHornsdown.com. Go check them out. DrinkHornsdown.com. All right, to the text line we go. 918, as crazy as this season was for the football team, it's also going to be a tough basketball season in the SEC coming up. But I do think this team is going to compete for a spot in the upper tier of this league. How do you feel about the team at this point? I feel great about the team. Like, me personally, I've been fighting like everyone else, not being like, all right, this team is different. This team is different than years past with Porter because we've been burned in the past. But look, Parker, the more that we see Jeremiah Fears, and I get it, like, if anyone still wants to say, well, I'm not going to get over my skis just yet because of what's happened in previous years, that's fine. That's your right. They haven't had a player like Jeremiah Fears in years past. Jalen Moore is an absolute dude. Like, they've got multiple options offensively, and that's not an opinion by me. Just go look at the games. Like, yeah, you're going to see Fears and Jalen Moore, probably be the leading scorers in most games, but whether it's Kobe Elvis or other players that they have are more than capable of having big nights as well. I'm not saying that they're going to win the SEC, but I am going to say that they will make the NCAA tournament, and I don't think it's much of a question right now for me. This is the best team that Porter's had.
Oh, absolutely no question about that, Tyler, because when you have a player like Jeremiah Fears, and obviously it goes beyond Jeremiah Fears, he's not the only guy that's going to give you a chance to win basketball games night in and night out. But when you have a dude of that caliber, it gives you a shot against anybody. I mean, there are plenty of games that you can go back to, you can cite from years past, ever since Porter took the job in April of 2021, where you just never really felt like Oklahoma had a chance going into the contest because of how overpowering the opposition was. Well, when you got a guy that's a human lightning rod in Jeremiah Fears and can heat it up and can be the scoring threat that nobody on the opposing team can contend with, then that's going to give you a shot regardless of who you go up against. And it makes you an incredibly volatile team, and I use that term in a good way. It makes you an extremely volatile team come postseason play, the type of team that, okay, maybe you don't make it past the round of 64, but let's say Jeremiah Fears gets on a roll, and he has one of those memorable runs that we've seen so many times over the years from, I don't know, pick a guard that elevates their team to the Elite Eight or even the Final Four. And that's not all you're going to need, but that is the most important thing that's going to contribute to a deep postseason run for this program.
One-star Jay in Tulsa says, off-topic, guys, but relevant to the college athletics landscapes. Have you caught now former University of Miami coach Jim Larrañaga's quotes on why he resigned today? He basically said, quote, "To hell with it. The system is broken, and I'm out," end quote. Check Ross Dellinger's feed for the exact quotes. Yeah, I found one, Jay. It said, quote, "After we went to the 2023 Final Four, 8 players wanted to transfer or seek better NIL deals. They told me they loved it at Miami, but they wanted to seek a better deal," end quotes. Yeah, that's incredibly frustrating after a magical season. I don't blame the guy.
Jim Larrañaga. Always going to remember him for that incredible run that he orchestrated at 2006 when he was at George Mason. That was the time tied for the lowest seed ever to reach the Final Four. But he's had a good run at Miami. It's becoming clear, Tyler, that the landscape of collegiate athletics right now is driving a lot of coaches up a wall and even out of the game. And Larrañaga is only the most recent example.
Jesse G says, "We need a small town that is not listening so we can shame them." I did not see Antlers on the app map there. So if you guys want to shame Antlers, Oklahoma, then by all means, apparently they're not listening right now via the KREF app. At least I can't see it on the screen that I have here. Roger is listening in Warsaw, Poland. What up, Roger? Hope you had a very Merry Christmas with your family. Roger says, "This is a big game for Venables in the program in general. We need to win tomorrow. 2 losing seasons in 3 years is a bad trend for us and will put even more pressure on Venables going into 2025. We need to win. We should win. Get it done. 31-16 Sooners." Boomer from Roger in Warsaw. I don't think a win tomorrow is going to change the overall perception of the season. And I don't think a win tomorrow, if it happens, should change the overall perception of what this season was and how it's going to be looked at over time. But I do agree, Roger, that they need to win tomorrow. I know that they're not playing with the full deck, and they're going to be very young out there, especially on offense. But to go into the offseason with at least a little bit of momentum and playing well offensively and playing clean, overall, Parker, I don't know if there's a lot to gain in terms of the big picture of this season, but OU could do itself a lot of good just putting together a nice performance tomorrow, especially offensively, and going out and beating a solid Navy team. And like Roger said, I mean, you should do that. You're Oklahoma. You should go out and win this game.
Yeah, this is a game Oklahoma should absolutely win and should be able to control. Now, they are shallow comparative to really any other game that they have played in recent memory, not just in 2024. They've got 56 scholarship players available, only 24 of whom are on the offensive side, Tyler, and 12 of whom within that offensive subset are freshmen. And so you don't have a full deck, not by a long shot, but you're going to be bigger, faster, stronger than Navy. I mean, for instance, the 2 captains that Brian Newberry brought with him from the Navy football team to the press conference today, if you didn't know better, you wouldn't have thought those guys were FBS football players. Not to say they didn't look fit or anything, or that they looked out of shape or just like regular humans, but those aren't the type of guys. You see Kobe McKenzie walking down Asp Street, and even if you don't know who he is, you can figure, okay, that guy plays linebacker. The Navy brought a linebacker by the name of Colin Ramos, and he's been a good player, a valuable player for them over the course of his time there. But if you walked past Colin Ramos on the street, you would not have automatically thought, yep, that's an FBS linebacker. So Oklahoma's going to have the advantages. It's about execution. And this is where things get hairy, Tyler, and where I start to worry a little bit, because this has been an error-prone football team in 2024. An error-prone football team absent two of their crucial vocal leaders in Danny Stutzman and Billy Bowman, this is precisely the type of team that if you let the opponent, a service academy, a very fundamentally sound team that takes pride in their execution, if you give them an inch, they will take a mile. If you allow them to dictate the pace, you may not get an opportunity to reestablish the upper hand in the football game.
I mean, this isn't a bunch of people around here getting ready to play a game against a service academy that doesn't have any experience. Well, I mean, we've watched Army and Navy, Air Force over the years. We've seen them play other teams, so we know if you don't value your possessions and if you don't take care of the football and if you don't play assignment football, we've seen them, give trouble to other really good teams. No, we've experienced this exact same thing ourselves, right? With a really good offense in 2018 with a quarterback that won the Heisman Trophy. So we know you got to value possessions. You've got to be good on third down defensively. You can't turn the football over. You can't allow them to have 9, 10-minute possessions, anything like that. Because as we saw in that 2018 OU Army game, man, you give them an inch and they're going to take advantage of every single mistake that you make, man. All right, no doubt about it. A 580 texter says, driving home from the in-laws, listening to the ref, about to drive through Antlers. So we do have someone that is about to listen to Antlers. Santa John says, Tyler, do you show Edmond, Oklahoma on your listening map? You don't ever mention it. Because for a while we did like the small town of the day, and then now I just kind of do random towns. But, yeah, for whatever reason, I don't pick Oklahoma City, Norman, or Edmond. But just for you, Santa John, Edmond, Oklahoma is listening today on the app map. So I appreciate you letting us know that you're listening in today, Santa John. Hope you had a great Christmas as well. Who's the leading rusher tomorrow? You going with Mike Hawkins? You going with the true freshman from Carl Alberts? You going with the surprise pick like a Gavin Sawchuk? Who's the leading rusher tomorrow?
It's a good question. In my experience, in these types of games, it's almost always somebody you don't expect. Like, I want to say in the 2020 Cotton Bowl, was it Seth McGowan that led OU in rushing, or did Marcus Major, by virtue of that enormous fourth quarter, lead OU in rushing?
I feel like everyone had their longest run of the year that night.
That is quite literally factual. I'm pretty sure everybody that carried the football for Oklahoma that night had their longest run of the year, including Spencer Rattler. So I don't know, man. I might go dark horse here and say Taylor Tatum. I think the safe answer is probably Michael Hawkins, just because I think he's going to get a lot of opportunities to tuck and run, whether by design on the read option or scramble drill type thing where he's very much, and we've seen this with him throughout the season, he's a quarterback that processes quickly and makes decisions quickly. If his first option isn't there, his second option isn't there, he's oftentimes, maybe he doesn't even make it to the second option, he's going to look to run the ball. He sees a window, he sees a glimmer of daylight, he's going to attack it. And so I would think Michael Hawkins is probably the safest bet as far as who leads this team in rushing tomorrow.
Ramondre Stevenson was the leading rusher in that Cotton Bowl. 18 carries for 186 and a touchdown. 18 for 186. Marcus Major had 9 carries for 110. Seth McGowan had 1 carry for 73 yards. Rattler had 7 for 40. Mikey Henderson, 1 for 18. And remember Todd Hudson? He had 2 carries for 12 yards. OU had 435 rushing yards against Florida that night on 40 carries. Jeez. They had runs of 50. Ramondre had a long of 50. Major had a long of 46. McGowan had a long of 73. Rattler had a long of 25. What a night for the Sooners there. And speaking of bowl wins, this would be Brent's first bowl win if he can get it tomorrow. Be nice to get on the board with a bowl win if they can make that happen. What about leading receiver? That one a little bit easier tomorrow? Someone has 2 catches for 15 yards or the leading receiver?
I would think there's a lot of volume coming Deion Burks' way tomorrow.
I sure hope so.
That's who I would project as your leading receiver. And obviously there's a ton of big play potential there, too, with Deion Burks. So it's not just about volume. It's about the possibility that, as we've seen before, saw it a couple times in the spring game, at any point he can just crack one open and go 65, 70 yards.
Brooke says, Dad and I are listening from the Arbuckle Mountains on our way to Fort Worth. We'll travel safe. Have a great time. Decent amount. This game's a sellout, correct? Didn't I see that 2 days ago? Announces a sellout?
That is correct. It's expected to break the Armed Forces Bowl attendance record.
Wow. Look at us, man. Look at us. Chase in Orange County says, listening from California, Merry Christmas, guys. Cheers to a Happy New Year. And a few things, news and notes in the portal before we hit a break here. I mentioned earlier, Steele Wassel is going to be in the transfer portal. Ethan Onyanwa, one of the first names that we talked about this portal cycle, offensive lineman from Rice. He is going to Ohio State. Malachi Coleman to Minnesota. How'd that one feel when you saw that one?
Still think it's a call you should have made, but hey, they chose not to. Minnesota's a good landing spot for them. They've had some success with sizable receivers in the past, so like that fit for Malachi, I think he'll do well.
Tawi Walker is back in the portal. Anyone want to run it back one more year? Anyone? I can't see if anyone's hands are your hands raised right now, Parker. You want to?
My hand is not raised. I'm sorry.
All right, we don't want to run it back.
I'm sorry. Love Tawi. I think it made sense to roll with a guy like that in the Big 12. I don't know if you can get away with it in the SEC just because of the lack of top-end speed and explosiveness. He's a guy that's going to move the pile forward at the very least, but in the SEC, I think for the level of competition that OU's facing now, you got to have a guy that can take the top off as well.
Drew England is also listening on I-35 on his way to Cowtown. So the Sooner Convoy heading south on I-35, getting ready for OU and Navy tomorrow. 11 a.m., Sooners listed as a 3-point favorite. We'll talk more about the football game, more about what's going on in the transfer portal, and a whole lot more. Final segment of Locked In is coming up next. Horns Down Apple Pie Liquor is not your grandma's apple pie unless your grandma was a moonshiner with a PhD in flavor. This all-natural, 6-time distilled spirit is sure to light up any party, tailgate, or special occasion. Whether toasting a touchdown or yelling at the Yums because Spike was safe, Horns Down Apple Pie is the perfect drink for celebrating the highs and lows of life in Oklahoma. Horns Down celebrates all of you who cheer from the berm, tailgate, on Lindsay Streak, and wreak havoc on social media. You can find our red bottle at your local liquor store or search for your closest location at drinkhornsdown.com.
Law Group provide compassionate, knowledgeable advice, all while fighting for your best interests. Find Schumacher Law Group online at lawgroupok.com or call 405-701-1882. Hometown lawyers ready to fight for you when experience matters.
Don't miss out on OKC's hottest entertainment at the Showplace Theater with acts like Ron White, December 27th.
I'm smart, but you can't prove it on paper.
Aaron Lewis and the State Liners, February 21st. Bonnie Raitt, March 15th. And Chicago, March 28th. Riverwind is OKC's favorite casino experience.
Hi Norman, it's DJ Newsom with Alliance Bank, your community-driven, friendly neighborhood bank. Whether you're a budding entrepreneur, lead a nonprofit organization, or just someone seeking a better banking experience, we've got you covered. From business to personal banking, we tailor our services to suit everyone's needs. We believe in making banking easy and enjoyable. Visit our Norman location or call us today at 405-286-5750. Alliance Bank, banking tailored to your needs. Member FDIC.
Ready for some pickleball fun? Join us at the Y-Fac for pickleball every Tuesday from 8 to 11 a.m. and Friday from 5 to 8 p.m. Grab your friends and hit the courts for a lively morning or evening game. If water fitness is your pleasure, Aqua Zuma classes are every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 9 p.m. Go online at yfac.com to learn more about day passes and memberships.
Are you looking for a local general contractor? Look no further than Windstone Construction. Windstone has been building for your favorite doctor, dentist, attorney, restaurant group, veterinarian, day spa owner, and even your neighbor since 2012. It's time to give Windstone a call at 405-329-7979 or visit WindstoneConstructionOK.com. Windstone Construction, building today, developing for tomorrow.
Water is our most precious resource and something that should be conserved and used wisely. Here are some water conservation tips you can try. In the bathroom, if your shower can fill a 1-gallon bucket in less than 20 seconds, replace the shower head with a water-efficient one. They are cheap, easy to install, and can save you up to 750 gallons a month. Water is life. This message was brought to you by the City of Norman.
Connect directly, bid confidently. At Purple Wave Auction, transparency is key. With no reserves and no hidden surprises, you're connected directly to sellers so you can inspect and bid on quality equipment with confidence. Whether you're looking for ag, construction, or fleet equipment, we're here to ensure a clear, hassle-free experience. Register today at purplewave.com and start bidding with peace of mind. Purple Wave Auction, the easiest and most straightforward way to buy and sell equipment.
This is Mark Van Hoos, owner of Van Hoos Fence. Van Hoos Fence has years of experience and proven superior performance, kind of like a certain head ball coach.
We know Van Hoos Fence offers the best value and service for your residential, commercial, or sports fencing needs. Whether it's a new install or repair work, let Mark and his team at Van Hoos Fence be your trusted resource.
Call us today at 405-735-1167.
Save yourself from Googling it up. Go to vhfence.com. They will work with you in a great way.
Dorsey Jones Buick GMC in El Reno, bringing you this hour of Locked In with McComas and Thune. Dorsey Jones is family owned and operated. Established in 2020, but many of their employees have been there for more than 20 years. They sell Buicks and GMCs, which are some of the best trucks and SUVs on the road. Dorsey Jones Buick GMC. Before we get back to the text line, we have a lot of people confirming that they are either heading to Fort Worth right now or will be heading to Fort Worth in the morning, such as Two-Star Shark, saying that he's headed down at 6 in the morning. Safe travels down there, Shark. A lot of people are asking about Zach Alley and West Virginia. Does he have an offer on the table? It sounds like he might. Rich Rod, who's now the head coach again at West Virginia, really wants to reunite with Zach Alley. Kind of feels like a situation where let's get through the bowl game, and then Zach Alley's probably going to sit down and make a decision here in the in the coming days.
Yeah, it'd be interesting to see what comes of this because obviously West Virginia feels they have a chance at Zach Alley. I mean, that's absolutely the only reason this process would have dragged out as long as it has, is if they feel they have a legit shot to hire Zach Alley once Oklahoma's season is complete. So I would expect that before too long, on the other side of Oklahoma's bowl game, we know what Zach Alley's future holds. There are two possible outcomes here, Tyler, right? Either he gets a hefty raise from Oklahoma or he's the next defensive coordinator at West Virginia. Now, I don't know which of those comes to pass because it's tough to know or believe anything with certainty when you're talking about coaches and the possibility of changing jobs and things in the hands of agents and big money being thrown around. But this is concerning. I don't think it's alarming, but it ought to be concerning, certainly, that there is that continued steam from the West Virginia side in the direction of Rich Rodriguez hiring Zach Alley. And it makes you wonder, okay, like, what if that does happen? What if Brent Venables and Oklahoma are unsuccessful in retaining Zach Alley? Where do they go from there at defensive coordinator? Where do they go from there as far as who coaches the linebackers? Venables is capable of filling both those roles, but the whole reason you brought in Zach Alley is so that he didn't have to fill both of those roles. And Oklahoma's defense here in 2024 has been night and day better than it was in either of Venables' first 2 years on campus as head coach at Oklahoma. So a lot that hangs in the balance here.
But even with all that being said, and there's a reason why this was the case, and it was because there was, such a disaster offensively this year and firing an offensive coordinator during the middle of the year. But that was the best defense that OU's had in a while. And the hiring of Zach Alley, there were some questions about, this guy's going to be your DC at this young of an age, and this is where he's been previously. But with all of that, he was still one of the least talked about assistants on the entire staff this year. And again, there's a reason for that, is because everyone wanted to talk about Seth Luttrell and Joe John and Bill Bedenbaugh and Emmett Jones and DeMarco Murray. I mean, really, throughout the year, the major talking point was the offensive side. So I guess that lets you know that Zach Alley did a really, really good job in year one, is that we hardly ever talked about him. The text line rarely even brought him up during the season, and that's a position in the past to where, man, caught in a lot of crap from the fan base, right? You know, if you don't have great performances.
Yeah, I mean, generally when you're a coach and your name isn't getting brought up, it's because you're doing a satisfactory job. They're only talking about you if they dislike you. That's why Joe John Finley's name has been brought up so much this fall. That's why Bill Bedenbaugh's name has been brought up so much this past fall. Nobody ever talks about Brandon Hall, Tyler. There's a reason nobody ever talks about Brandon Hall, because his safeties are good, the room is deep, you don't have to worry about that group, and they're never a liability for the program. But if your unit becomes suspect, even for a brief moment in time, boy, the noise will proliferate.
Major reporting going on the text line right now from multiple Sooner fans heading south on I-35. Traffic is an absolute mess currently right now. Yardbird Richard says there is a major backup on southbound I-35 due to an accident. There are also several construction delays. Here's another one from the 405. Anyone heading south, avoid Arbuckles. Dead stop for 10 minutes now. At least the rain has stopped. And there was another one that's there. Julio says, traffic right now on the way to Fort Worth is worse than OU, Texas. Oh, my gosh. Yikes. Worse than OU, Texas weekend. Well, I hope it doesn't take you guys 8 hours to get down there today. That's not great. 405, Oklahoma ought to be absolutely embarrassed if they get outbid by West Virginia. What a joke. Sounds like Rich Rod really wants him.
Yeah, well, again, it's not all about the money. Yes, the money is going to be a very, very significant piece of the puzzle, but set aside the OU bias for a second, because I know everybody listening has it, and it's something you have to try very hard. I myself have to try very hard to dissociate from it in order to look at a situation like this objectively. Oklahoma's going to have better talent. Coaching in the SEC for many guys is going to be far superior to coaching in the Big 12. But what is West Virginia going to put in Zach Alley's ear? Hey,
it's your defense, man.
Are you? Well, it not only is it your defense, but Rich Rodriguez is going to tell him, hey, I just got here. I'm a legend around these parts. I have a lot of job security, therefore you have a lot of job security. Are you sure you want to count on this thing working at Oklahoma? Because 6-6 right now, and everybody's coaching for their job in 2025, and everybody knows it. Is that where you want to be at 31 years old? Is at a crossroads where you're not entirely sure if you're going to have a job next season, depending on how the season that is plays out? Or would you rather come here, get a fresh start, earn a great salary, be the solo defensive coordinator, call your own shots, and let's build this thing at West Virginia?
I would guess, though, that, if he stays and it doesn't go OU's way next year and Brent were to get fired, I would guess Zach Alley would still, have some pretty good opportunities. I don't know what those would be, and I don't know if he would have an SEC defensive coordinator job offer or anything like that. But, yeah, he would have opportunities. I'm sure West Virginia is also pitching him that, hey, man, this is your defense, and there is no confusion as to who's running things. Because at Oklahoma, if OU has a really good defense next year, Brent's going to get the credit way more than anyone else, Zach Alley included. So I would guess that's probably a pitch to them as well. Christian Chicago, 2-star Christian Chicago. Well, we're talking about traffic to Fort Worth now. Christian Chicago was reporting that traffic in Chicago is light. So if anyone needed that report, Christian Chicago has got us there. 405-651-3439, Knippelmeyer Chevrolet text line. Anything noteworthy at all going on in 2026? Kind of feels like all the focus right now is the transfer portal, the bowl game, and not that they don't care about what's going on in 2026, but anything real noteworthy to add with what's going on there early on in this cycle?
No, not a ton. 3 commits on the board right now: Jaden O'Neal, Ryder Mix, and Will Conroy. I mean, there are going to be a couple of guys, a couple local guys in particular, that come into focus in a big way over the next few months because of the potential for some early decisions. I mean, that's what OU's going to push for. It's what they always push for with those in-state guys in particular. I mean, they got Alex Shield Knight to shut it down early. They got Trinae Washington and Marcus James to shut it down early. Could they get a guy like K.D. Jones to shut it down early? Could they get somebody like Taj Overton or Mason James, the outstanding wide receiver from Norman North, to shut it down early? I don't know, but I would imagine that's going to be one of the Sooners' first orders of business once they get back in the offices after the bowl game and start figuring things out as they get ready to flip the calendar from 2024 to 2025 and from the 2025 cycle to the 2026 cycle, is how many of these guys do we think we can make a legit push to get on board fast?
Yeah. 580 texter says the hiring of Ben Arbuckle has to excite Zach Alley as well. You're the defensive coordinator at a program like OU with a talented roster returning defensively. You don't walk away. And that's a great point in the the pursuit of Oklahoma trying to keep Zach Alley, which they will and have 100% done, is, hey, man, you've got a roster next year, and I truly believe this. I think the defense is going to be good again next year, man. I know you lose Stutzman. I know you lose Bowman. I know you lose Downs, and we'll see what happens with some other players as well. But you've got a much more talented roster at Oklahoma than you do at West Virginia if you were to leave. I don't think there's much of a question there.
417 listener says, I'll answer it. If Allie is 100% bought into BV, he stays. Alex from Manford says, in the Cotton Bowl, it sounds like – I can't read that. Well, I shouldn't read that, Alex.
You want me to read it? I'll read it. Alex says, in that
sure,
Cotton Bowl, it sounds like McGowan and Henderson robbed some teammates from getting some carries. Get it? I think most people get it. I think most people get it. Mr. 405 says, going to the game, gents. My ex is in the Navy. Need an OU win to keep my sanity. See, there's some bragging rights going on with some people in this game. Best of luck to you tomorrow, Mr. 405. Hope you have a great time. OU comes out with a win. What's OU's biggest edge in this game tomorrow? Sitting here as a 3-point favorite.
OU's biggest edge is the fact that they have better athletes than Navy. And what you hope from this football team tomorrow is that they play fundamentally sound football and they don't make mistakes, because as long as you don't beat yourself, Oklahoma should not have much trouble outflanking Navy, because their athletes are going to be better at every single position across the board. Bigger, stronger, faster. It's the different. And Brian Newberry said it this morning in his press conference. He said, I don't know if we have a single player on our roster that Oklahoma offered out of high school, which just goes to illustrate the major point and what's always going to separate a school from Oklahoma, or a school like Oklahoma from a school like Navy, is that you're recruiting two very different calibers of athletes. And so this should take care of itself, but it's only going to take care of itself if you avoid making the self-handicapping mistakes that we have seen time and again from this program in 2024. That can't be repeated.
I know it's a key in every single game, especially when you have a game where the spread is a field goal. But, man, and maybe you can even dumb it down to 5 minutes. But the first 10 minutes of this game to me, certainly the first 15 minutes of the first quarter, extremely important for this football team. I would hope that this offense comes out and they're able to run the football and get a push up front. But if OU's struggling to run the ball in the first 10, 15 minutes of the game, if they're going 3 and out and punting it to Navy, and Navy builds an early lead, 7-0, 10-0, 14-0, whatever it looks like, then OU's going to be in a lot of trouble in this game. They have to get off to a great start in this game against Navy. Have to, man. With as young as they're going to be tomorrow and the way that Navy plays and everything we know about their style, you have to control the tempo and the pace of this game early. Have to.
Yeah, it's going to be pivotal that you win the first quarter, because I think we're going to have a very strong sense of where this game is headed, Tyler, after the first quarter. Navy is not a team that's engineered to play from behind. And Oklahoma, in general, throughout the Venables era, has not been great at playing from behind either. So if Navy is controlling the flow of the game through one quarter, it'll probably stay that way throughout. If Oklahoma jumps out to an early lead, the midshipmen are going to have a very, very difficult time clawing back into this thing.
Boomer Tuner says, Texas may be in the playoffs, but if we beat Navy, not many SEC schools or countries can say they defeated the United States Navy military branch. Well, let's put it on a T-shirt if it happens, right? Sure, all of us next year for the 25 season opener will be wearing our Armed Forces Bowl Championship T-shirts if OU beats Navy tomorrow. All right, keep the text coming. We got 3 more hours left. Jonathan Jackson joins us in about 10 minutes. Talk a whole lot of